What's going on, good people? This is Eddie Gray, and we are back at it again. We're talking about the Logic User Guide. If you may have remembered, we're actually on the tail end of talking about the step sequencer. If you want to learn more about the step sequencer and get information that you simply will not get on any other channel, then go ahead and stay tuned. Let's go. What's going on? What's going on? What's up, guys? Happy Tuesday. Broadcasting live from LA. This is Eddie Gray. We're going to go over the Logic User Guide. We're on page, 680 something or other. We're super stoked to be here. Go ahead and stay tuned. We're covering the step sequencer. Here we go. Very good, very good. So look, if you want to go ahead, I ask you that you sub. We're up above 2K followers. We're so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to serve you at this high level. And this is all that we've been wanting. As you see, the dedication is there. We really have been putting our energy behind this channel. Just wanting to give people a home, wanting to give people a resource. We know that not every channel is for everyone, and what we're tailoring to here and what we're curating is information pertaining to what I like to call the modern creative. These are individuals that find themselves working completely or mostly in the box, and they need solutions to be able to work the system, music licensing, music production as a whole, very fast now, and we don't have the luxury of having 5 years to develop, or perhaps you want to develop but you just don't have the proper mentorship. And so we need ways to be able to hack the system, and that's what this channel is all about. So rule number one, as far as my estimation goes, is you have to learn the DAW, and you have to learn it extremely well. We know that this is your instrument now. If you ever played the piano, that's great, but now this is a part of your arsenal. And because it's a part of your arsenal, we're going to make sure we take it very, very serious. So we're covering the step sequencer. I want to get right into it. There's a lot to cover. And yeah, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. As always, if you want to reach out to my team or myself, go ahead and email support@hfmusicacademy.com. And all we ask in return, right, there's a lot being given towards your direction. We want to make sure that this is a relationship of reciprocity. So if you could just go ahead and sub, just share this one time over on your socials, and we will call it a deal. All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about the step sequencer, my friends. This is such an incredible subject. And again, I feel honored to be able to talk about it. And again, always make sure that you're in what? I want to make sure that you're in beast mode. Here we go. Okay, my good friends, let's get right into it. Loading and saving patterns in the Logic Pro step sequencer. So we're moving away from the overall architecture, talking about edit modes, talking about attributes, perhaps not looking at the rows themselves and sub rows and things like that. But essentially, we're looking at patterns now. And I know as we go down this particular chapter, we will start talking about how to insert loops from the loop browser, muting rows, soloing rows, and things of that nature, rotating. So yeah, let's get right into it. It says here, the step sequencer includes a pattern browser. I believe this is the best way to learn the program when you initially start. Utilize the pattern browser function so you can really get how to build these patterns from the ground up. Where you can choose, you can save patterns, but also templates. So when you think of a pattern, we think of musical time division, 4 on the floor or what have you. But when we think of templates, now we're thinking about the rows. Is it a note, a melodic? Is it an automation row? And so here we can save those for later usage. The pattern browser contains a variety of pre-made patterns for drums, bass, keys, and other instruments. Now, just because it's made for drums doesn't mean that you have to utilize drums. I just want to be clear about that. Of course, creativity has no bounds. And so go ahead and try out a synthesizer with some of the drum patterns and see what kind of results you get. The pattern browser also features templates. Okay, so let's look at this, which includes pattern, row, and step settings, but with an empty step grid. So templates are rad because everything is kind of done for you as far as all the work, and all you have to do is start to input the MIDI data. And then, yeah, think of it as a starting point. Patterns can also be contain the pattern loop. All right, so now we can have a sequence, a chord progression, a melodic theme also be kind of pre-configured for us. Now, of course, some people will think of this as generic, but it's always about what you do with it, right? There are different kinds of composers, different kinds of creatives all over the world. And if you find yourself being more of a, let's call it a musical chameleon, a hack, perhaps you don't write all original ideas all the time, then you're gonna have to find ways to keep yourself relevant and interesting, right? You can't just always sample every single thing and expect to be able to, build a career on it. It could be challenging. And so it's nice to be able to have different skill sets and be able to use them when it's appropriate, depending on the client, depending on the situation, where it's going, are you playing live, et cetera, et cetera. A pattern loop contains the patch for the pattern sound. All right, so when we're talking about pattern loops inside the loop browser, what does it contain? All right, they're letting us know the sound, the pattern itself, the row and step settings. So the on a micro level, the step setting, right, how it's being configured, and then of course the row level on a more macro level, and then the pattern as well. Loop browser includes a collection of patterns, which are awesome. If you haven't really checked them out, go ahead and take 10 minutes and go through all those pattern loops. Really nice. You add pattern loops to the tracks area or the live loops grid. So remember that the pattern format is not a new kind of track, but merely a new kind of format. So we're going to click on the pattern browser and we're going to start to access the bass, drums, melodic, and templates categories. Now again, these here are the patterns themselves, and then here we have the templates. We can search by name utilizing the text box. Hold on, I went too far there. One sec. Wait, did we go too far? No, we're here. And once you search by name, if you would like to, if maybe you think of I don't know, an adjective or something, you can do that. But I think what's more important is to understand that you can actually transpose to a certain key. So let's say you're already writing in D and perhaps you didn't change the key signature inside of Logic. You can change the key signature inside of what they call the pattern inspector. So let's take a look at that because they're not really explaining it here. Now I mostly have drum patterns, but here on track number 2, I am utilizing a kind of manufactured tremolo synth thing. Check it out. Okay, so you hear what that sounds like, yeah? And so if I double click on the pattern region and I open up the inspector here, pattern inspector, we can see pattern key. Now, of course, this is all contingent on the chord progression and how all that works. And if you don't have a lot of working knowledge, it's important. It's definitely important. So it might be a good idea. So let's just change this and see how it works in the key of, let's say, E. Let's see if it changes it. So what's interesting is if I click on this first one, this first pattern loop here, it's in the key of E, but this is also its own individual element insofar as it being an individual region, yeah? And so this is in the key of C, so I can continue changing one and then the other. Now, of course, a lot of this can be guesswork as well. You don't have to have it all figured out, but the more you know, the higher the likelihood you'll land on some really good ideas, or at least you'll increase your chances to get lucky. So let's give this a shot. Now, if you don't remember how I got that sound, I essentially created a volume automation row. You can check the last video for reference. And I'm just creating different automation values by way of volume. You see here I have 0, and then here I have, what is that, plus 6 dB or something. And so it's just following this. If I take this out, now, of course, that was just for the first pattern region. It doesn't have any automation values per se, yeah? And so bear in mind, automation value is something that you can access by way of an automation row. You will not see automation value inside of, let's say, a note row, such as you can see right here. I'll click here. You don't see automation value, right? We know that if we change this note, this will ultimately turn into what they call a melodic row. All right. And I'll give you an example of that really quick. So let's just change the note to, I don't know, C-2. Let's see if I could, yeah, here. Okay, so you see how now it says melodic. So we started with a note row, which is really good for accessing different drums and what have you. But as soon as you change, you're able to access the melodic row, and now, of course, we can go from note to note to note. Whereas with note row, it's appropriate to just play that specific MIDI event. So just C2. Let me go ahead and Command Z this to go back to normal. So now, again, we're using just the note row. And if I were to change that specific note, then it changes into a melodic row. So again, check out the last video for more context. All right, so we can save a pattern and we can save a template. So to go over the difference, if I go to this hi-hat pattern that I've drawn up here, pretty simple. Now this is probably something that one would use from time to time quite a lot, you know, crescendo kind of build up hi-hat thing. So if you find yourself using a lot of the same kinds of patterns, it's never a bad idea. Click on the region, make sure it's in key focus, go into the pattern browser here, and then perhaps you can start to save your pattern or save your template. In the case of this here, I'll go ahead and save my pattern and I'll just call it hi-hat crescendo. So then now let's say we're, you know, doing something else, working on another song. I think, you know what, I would love that. Here's one I did before, 4 on the floor. I should spell that correctly. There you go. And so then now I'm able to access 4 on the floor, right? This is something that we would do a lot. So why not just have it prepared? Okay, now that's on a snare, so that's not going to work. So we would just change this, right? This is still a note row, right? I haven't changed the actual note. I'm just changing the kit piece. Okay, so that's how that would work. Let's go for the hi-hat crescendo pattern. So here it is right here. Good. Okay, so the template is going to save the information that's on this side of the screen. So let's read about that. Choose Save Template from the Action pop-up menu. So if I read some of these templates, for example, like, let me see if I can go back, slide this over, or use the 2-finger gesture scroll. So if we go into templates, see how they have different scales, right? This is a good template for drums, for example. They have already laid everything out for you. Here are all my kicks. And I bet this coincides with Drum Machine Designer, but let's see if this is true. Yeah, you see how it matched up? It already knew the mapping. So they're following kind of the mapping that Drum Machine Designer lays out. So let's see what this sounds like. Here, I'll take out these two. All right, good. So now I'm able to access that. But let's say we were working on going back up here. We were working on some kind of, I don't know, like exotic kind of, thing. Maybe I'll play with Byzantine. I don't even know what that scale is. Let's do Phrygian, or we can kind of play with some of the setup. Now this is based, from my understanding, on the key of the song. In this case, I have this set up to E major. Again, if you don't do your homework or you don't configure this or preset this up, it's not going to work the way you would expect. So there's a little bit of prep time, but it's really not intense or impossible. So it's just a matter of kind of paying attention, doing some of that groundwork. And so here is something in the Phrygian scale. Let's move this over here and let me hit S. All right, let's check it out. Right, that wouldn't be something that I would normally write, and so that's really nice. Now, the greatest thing, of course, is that we can go over to convert by control clicking, and then taking the MIDI data and then really making this your own, right? Changing it up, increasing the sustain of certain notes, playing with velocity by way of adding dynamics. Yeah, it sounds fantastic, and that auto filter is really making that work. Good. Okay, let's continue on. If you want to delete a user created folder, I think that's going to be something obvious, but still, let's go over it. Say I created a user folder for patterns. I could just click on that and go into the action gear menu and delete the pattern. Okay. So again, you can use the loops from the browser. So let me hit E-O. I'll click on that button right there. Click on pattern loop. All right. So Logic up until now has 283 of these ready to go. A lot of them just sound really stellar, and you would drag them in the very same manner. Now, the only difference is, whereas before I was the one dictating if I was going to use MIDI or pattern, and of course it was going to abide by my sound selection. In this case, I don't remember how I selected these strings, but they were selected. But here, when I drag this in, what's interesting is that it's a patch, right? It comes with its own instantiated instrument and audio effects plugins, and they're pretty much ready to go, right? Not only that, the pattern itself has been laid out, and then of course the template has been laid out as well. So let's listen to this really quick. Now, if you wanted to, there is no doubt that you could go into something like, Serum or something, or some of the best synths in the world, Sector by Initial Audio, and let's go to bass here, and you can change up the sounds. Let's see if we can. All right, so you see how this sounds kind of low for this range? This could happen from time to time. You can raise up the octave of the synth. That's not a problem. But you can also go here to the region inspector. And because this region here is in key focus, the pattern region, I'm just going to increase this up an octave. Now, visually, you're not going to see anything different, but check it out. So I'll go up one more octave. Right? And so that could work in your favor. Let me just go up just by, one octave. Let's try and find a good sound. Maybe that bass is not going to work, but. Now, of course, you're not stuck to this pattern. Let's say you don't like this E note up here. You can change it. You could just say, hey, you know what? Not feeling the E. Let's go to F, right? I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Let's try this out. right? Or again, you want to go back, you just go back to that E, not -2, but 2. Be careful for that. It looks similar. Good. And then on top of that, we can change the actual step attributes and then the row settings as well. So we'll get into that more here in a second. Let's see, is there anything else that we missed here? Just want to make sure. If the track is empty, the track uses the patch saved with the pattern. You can also drag a pattern loop to an empty area below the bottom track. So how I did that was I dragged it right to the bottom where there are no other tracks existing, and that's how I was able to access the patch. If you don't do it that way, you look at track number 2, I'll drag it in. It's not going to change the patch. I still have strings selected. The only way it's going to change a patch is if you drag it into an empty area. All right, what is that? 687. Let's keep going. To modify the playback. All right, let's talk about some options here. Eddie Gray reading the logic user guide. Some options in step sequencer control how and when steps play back and can be fun to manipulate while the pattern is playing. For example, you can mute solo rows, rotate. So this is really cool. We talked, I think, about this last time around. Makes it really easy to change settings inside of the step sequencer. You can change the playback mode. We've talked about that extensively. Perform other actions while the pattern is playing. In addition to controls and menu items, the step sequencer includes a collection of key commands to facilitate making these and other changes in real time. All right, cool. So we can utilize key commands if we're ready to take that on. I know we learned a couple of them last time around by way of, I think it was it control command? Here, let me just double check that. So again, when the step sequencer is in key focus and I want to move to the edit mode button or the attribute button, control command, I believe it was, hold on, C, nope, definitely not that one. Maybe it was control option. Yeah, control option and then whatever the letter is. So like N for note, G for gate. Well, there was another one that was weird. What was it? K? Yeah, K for skip. Go figure. And it's the reason skip is in K is because S is for step on and off. But yeah, it's a nice little workflow. If you ever forget key commands, you're not a key command person, whatever that means, you can control click, summon the contextual menu, and then access the information this way as well. Of course, option K takes you to this fine menu for those of you that are advanced, and you can check out the appropriate key commands. Hold option to close all of these disclosure triangles, and then all of a sudden you could just find step sequencer right there. Okay, I will click on the disclosure triangle and then learn what it is you need to learn. There's, one thing I've been trying to learn for a while, I keep forgetting to really dial in. It's delete the whole pattern, like clear everything. Wondering if there's a way to do that. I'm sure they'll bring it up, but it's quite extensive. There's a lot there. Yeah, I don't see anything right now. Toggle selected step. So that means turn on and off. What key command is that? Hold on. Okay, cool. So yeah, apostrophe, nice. Yeah, I'm looking to delete everything that would be nice. Select pattern playback. Right. You can do that. So yeah, still clear current edit mode. Oh, here we go. Clear current edit mode for all rows. Let me try control option command clear. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to click right here, control option command, and that's the delete key. Nothing. I'll try that one more time without this window. Let's see. Nope. Oh, there you go. All right, that wasn't hard. All right, so let's just say you're like, yeah, I don't want any of this anymore. And I'm assuming it's also the attributes. Let's be sure, control option command delete. I still see the attributes like velocity, gate. So if I open these up, they will still exist there. So just a heads up. I'm sure there's a way to clear all the rows as well. All I did was clear the current edit mode. What about, oh, you can randomize as well. That's pretty cool. Anyway, let's keep going here. All right, to mute a row, pretty simple. We can hit M, S solo, a lot of the same functionality that you would utilize inside of the tracks area. Hold on, sorry guys. Okay, to rotate, this is good. So when you rotate, all the steps in the row, including their edit mode values, are shifted, either clockwise or counterclockwise. When you rotate, the edit mode value for that sub row is shifted left or right. So if you want it to rotate to the right, you would click on the appropriate button, or the left, right? So this is just the row. So if I may, let me hit Command Z. Let's go back to this. And you think to yourself, you know what? I don't want this E, this note right here, to land there. I'm going to click on this button here, which allows me to rotate the steps. So then now we're just changing the order of. So these get moved over by one step. And of course, these, because they're at the end, will be moved over to the front here. Okay, let's check this out. Okay, so all that makes sense, right? So that's good. Now we can keep doing that over and over again. Just a great technique to experiment. Check that out. Apparently we can rotate all the steps in the pattern. Kind of click the rotate left button. Okay, so wait, what's the difference between, oh, just the row and then everything in general? Okay, yeah, I understand. So these would be attributed to the individual row right here, right? So if I just want to move this row over, I'm just going to move these over. But if I want to move everything, globally speaking, for the pattern, then I would play with that. Same goes for the playback, right? We can change the playback for as a whole, or you can change playback individually utilizing the pattern inspector. And I wonder if there's a way to do that within the row. I guess we would have to wait and see, but I don't see a way. Oh, here it is. It actually shuts down when you open up the pattern browser. No, I just didn't see it. Okay, here it is right here. Unless I hit something else. But yeah, so you can also change the playback for the individual rows. You can also set up that key command if you would like. So rotate edit mode values for steps row. When you use the rotate controls in a sub row, you can rotate edit mode values for the sub row independently of the step values. So in other words, you don't have to change the on and off switch. You can change the value of just the attribute. You can use this technique to, for example, keep the same rhythm while changing the pitches being played. So let me give you a better example. So in the case of this E, okay, I would like to perhaps change, let me add an attribute here, the notes. So I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this over to the right or left. Let's see if it lets me. I don't see, yeah, it's not letting me move the note over, but let me just experiment really quick. Why isn't it moving the note? Okay, I see what's going on. Let me go back. Okay, so when you are utilizing the note row, you cannot move this just by nature of what it is. You can use the, you can increase the value incrementally here. So for example, right now this is E. If I raise this up, it'll be now on F. And so this will sound like this. So I'm just going, you know, 1/2 step up, sharp, and then down. So that's one way to do it. But you can also melodically switch this around. Now, in order to be able to pull this off, remember, you have to actually change this into a melodic row. And so then now I'm actually going to change the order of this. So for example, right now it sounds like this. So this is for the note E, right? Well, I could change the notes within just this melodic row. So I'll just, why don't I go up an octave just for fun, see what happens. So E2, oh, I guess that's my range. I'm limited to that. But here, check this out. Okay, and if I wanted to change that, I could. Let me take away some of these steps. So I'll click on the right here. Let's see, is it going to move things over? No, it doesn't. Okay, so that is a little interesting. Rotate edit mode values. In Logic Pro, click the disclosure triangle. If necessary, change the edit mode for a subrow. So I guess I should probably move to another. Okay. That makes sense. What if I wanted to change the velocity? Not allowing me to rotate that. Maybe because there's no other velocities. Let me just. Okay, now I see that it is moving. Okay, so that's what they mean essentially is you can change the value of the attribute. So you can rotate the value. So like for example, right now on this first step, I have 100, 100, 100, 100, and this last one is also 100. So if I rotate this over, sooner or later, we'll get a different value. Let me just keep doing it. Okay, so then now we have 100, 100. The third step is 83. And again, that's all based on my previous selections, depending on what I was doing. So you can change the value. Let's listen to this now. All right, so that's another thing you could do to experiment. We're changing the edit mode. We're rotating the edit modes. Again, you can change the playback from left to right, forward and back, random. Similar to how the playhead moves from left to right. You can change the playback mode for the overall pattern and the row. Okay. It's pretty simple, and we've talked about it enough. If there's anything else that I need to bring up, I will. But yeah, I mean, globally, right, this can play forward. And then as far as the individual level, oh, here's what I was looking at last time. You see how I can't see the playback? I'm not. Oh, is that because I had this on? Oh, that's weird. Yeah. So because I opened up these sub rows, I cannot see the playback functionality of the individual rows until that collapses. Now I can see it. So let me move this one, make sure it's playing back. I'll have this one shuffle along with this one will shuffle as well. And then I'll have this one play in reverse, and I'll have this one ping pong back and forth. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay. Good, I think I have a bass line here. Let's listen to this. Okay, cool. Let's take this, and this time not on a row basis, but just globally. Let's take that existing beat, and let's just do a random shuffle and see what happens. Now, what's cool about this is it actually graphically showed me what was going to occur. Let me go forward and back. It's a simple 4 on the floor. I saw that the fill changed at the end, but anyway, you get the point. You see what's happening here. All right, good. Let's keep going. All right, when we come back from our break, we're going to edit steps inside of the sequencer. We'll be repeating using some common key commands, transposing up and down, and then copying and pasting rows as soon as we come right back. Hey, welcome back. As a reminder, please join us on the Apple community. Such a great community there, and it's amazing the amount of information that gets parlayed on any given day. Being able to witness some of the greatest logic minds in the world. Highly advise you, if you have a question, even if you have feedback for logic, just go ahead and enter the logic community so that we can all make it better. It's only going to get better if we start to input our feedback. And so I want to make sure that I encourage you to take the time to do that. Can't take any longer than 10, 15 minutes. And I do believe it'll make a big difference. I hope this is making a difference for you and that you're learning every facet of the game so that if you have a weakness, if there's something that you need to work on or just polish up, let's say there's just something that needs refinement, that you use this time, that you use this window of opportunity that we all have to become more and to do more. Right? I know this is something always that I harp on and that I bring up, but I really do think it's important because we're all going to come out of this with something or nothing. And I want to make sure that you get ahead and that you do what you need to do so that when it's time and when your moment comes, that you give it 120%. All right, let's get right back into it. We're talking about editing the step sequencer steps in Logic Pro. Let's do that now. Okay, you can edit individual steps in several ways, including cutting, copying, pasting. You can also repeat a step, right? We can increment the values or decrement the values of all steps in a row. We kind of have already talked about that. Transpose all the steps in a pattern. You can do that by semitones, octaves, randomize values, which is probably the best thing. Really nice. And then you can reset to the default values as well. Pattern regions can be edited only inside of the step sequencer. So I want to be sure that you understand. We can't create a chord progression and then convert to pattern. It doesn't work that way. We can do it the other way around, have a pattern and convert to MIDI, but we will not be able to edit the step sequence inside of the MIDI editors. You can convert a pattern region to a MIDI region, which can then be edited in the piano roll. All right, to cut a step, we would use all the traditional methodologies, hit delete, edit, Command X, Control click, all that good stuff. So like this one right here, right? I could just hit, Command X, right? It can use my arrow keys, Command X. Let me undo that. If you want to just select a note without necessarily having to delete it, because you'll find that's kind of part of the behavior. If you option click it, you should be able to access it no problem. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got. Copy and paste. This would include all the step settings it says here. Now, when you paste a copied step, the destination row should be of the same row type. So again, you're either using note, which can become melodic, or you're using an automation row. You want to make sure that if you're copying and pasting, you're doing so in the same row type. All step settings are copied with one exception. Okay, what's the exception? If the step rate was not edited for that individual step, that is, if it still uses the pattern or row step rate, the paste step inherits the step rate of the step that it replaces. Wow, that's a lot of steps. Okay, so let's see. Shift click the step, then choose Command C. Okay, so like for example, I will hold Option, click that, Command C, click on this step. Wait, I guess that selected it already. I'll click on this step and I'll hit Command V. Yeah, you have to hold Option, so that's new. If you shift click the destination step, and I believe, am I wrong about this? Is this an error? Yeah, what they mean is Option, not Shift. They might have just changed that. I don't know, but yeah, it's not Shift, Option. Because if you just shift click it, basically you're removing the step. And so what we're looking to do is select it. You can use the arrow keys as well, to be clear. But if you want to select an individual step without necessarily turning it on or off, you will have to hold Option. Repeating, again, not Shift but Option. I have it set to Command D, but you could just oh, wait a minute. Again, you have to select it, Command D. No. Okay. Well, it says you can Control click. Oh, it is set to Command R. All right. The only reason I said Command D is because I have that set up here, as you can see in the tracks area. But in my haste, I forgot that unless you set it up in the step sequencer, it has its own individual behavior. So again, if my focus is inside of the step sequencer, Command R should get me there. Let's see, Command R. There you go. Let me close some windows here. All right. So again, I'll use the arrow keys this time. on here, Command, arrow keys, and then Command R, Command R. Awesome. Let's keep going. Raise or lower the values. So we can click on the increment and decrement value. We already talked about that. Same goes for transpose. So that would be inside of the inspector, unless there's something. There's actually key command as well. Transpose the pattern up from the functions menu. Okay, so if I go into functions, see how they have key commands here. This is probably not going to be as audible because it's a drum, but let's hear this this line here. Okay, so I'll hit Option up arrow key. It should go up by 1 semitone. Yeah, let's do that again. Okay, and then this time we'll do 1 octave. I assume it's Shift Option up arrow key. It should be up 1 octave. Okay, so that's pretty sweet. Again, that can also, I think it could be done in here. Am I wrong about that? Step rate, row. Nope, I think that was it. I guess I was more thinking the region inspector. You see how I have it set to 26. So we're just utilizing the region inspector for transposition purposes. Nothing in here that I can see right now. No. Okay, let's keep going. To randomize, I think this one's good. Functions, randomize, and this goes for the row, and this goes for all values. So let's do that. Let's do this note here. So we'll go to functions and randomize what value. Or do you want to do step on and off? Velocity? Yeah, I want to do step on and off. That's awesome. Okay, and then I'll change this one as well. I'll do functions, randomize. Again, not all values, but just the row. Why don't we do no repeat? Let's see what that sounds like. I didn't see anything change, but that's only because, I didn't see anything change. Why not? Maybe is it because it's a melodic? I don't know. Let me try gate. Does this do anything? Okay, I could see that clearly changed. Let me do note repeat one more time and see why there was some resistance met there. So not note, but note repeat. Let's see, does this help? Note repeat. Let's see. Okay, now I see that working. Let me just go ahead and just try that one more time. So randomize row, note repeat. Yep, it will actually work. Here we go. All right, pretty cool. I really like this randomize feature. I could see myself using it. All right, so now let's talk about resetting, right? Let's say you take it too far. Let's say you go way beyond the scope of your imagination. You take it way too far. You come back, you listen to your session, you're like, what is this? How can we go back to a default setting? Okay, this would include edit modes, playback modes, everything. After you change the value, it no longer retains the default value. We're going to clear steps, and that's going to reset all of our edit mode values to the default values. So it says here for the step rate, the default is defined by the row step rate. Step rate. The row is defined by the row step rate. Okay, you can clear a single step, all steps in a row, or all steps in the pattern. Okay, so this is important here. Let's highlight that. We can clear just one, everything in that row, or just everything in general. You can also clear the values for a specific edit mode in a single row or for steps in all rows. So we can clear the values for a specific, like a note repeat, right? Or for everything in that row. So if you want to clear edit mode values for a step, again, not shift, but option, then choose functions clear step. So let me just choose one of these by holding option. And I think they said functions clear step. So that's control delete. So let me use my arrow key. I'm going to delete this one, control delete. So that will delete just the one. If I just hit delete, it's going to do nothing. If I focus on the row, I would assume if I click delete now, it's going to delete the row. Yes, it did, but that's because the row was in key focus. Okay, we can also, it says here, clear the row. And so that's control command delete, and that just cleans house, right? Bear in mind, it's just eliminating that one value. Velocity is still here. In fact, hold on. Let me just make sure that I'm giving you the right. Actually, no, it literally clears everything. So I'm about to hit Control Command Delete, and all of these values will be turned off and back to default. Okay, that's awesome. That's a good one. To clear all steps, what's that key command? Clear the whole pattern, and that's basically all your keyboard modifiers. Control Shift Command Delete. Control Shift Command Delete. Here we go. Okay, so that's nice. That's what I was looking for. And actually, all these are pretty nice. And I do love this layout. There is a lot to remember, regardless if you're a beginner or not. And so it's nice to just be able to have all this accessible, just to be able to instantly access it at any point. So 691 here, we're going to edit step sequencer rows. All right. Copying, pasting, all the stuff that we've been doing. I can't imagine it'll be that different. Choose edit, copy row from the step sequencer. So I guess I'll go to this. Okay. So let's pretend I want to copy everything from here. And so I'll copy the row. So does this say Control C? Wow. Control C. I'll have to take that at face value, and then I'll just hit Control V. Did it do it? Yeah, it did. Cool. So I'm wondering if it's taking the value, the edit modes as well. I'm not sure if it is. 83, is that doing the same thing? I think it is. Hold on. Yeah, it's also taking all of the attributes as well. So I think that's super useful. Let me just highlight that. Something that I'm going to want to continue to do. So these are both going to be note rows. The note and octave values are ignored. You can copy and paste a row to duplicate the rhythm of the copied row with a different drum sound. So the idea is basically, I should probably go to a drum beat. Let me think about this here. And then what I'll do is I'll go to the pattern browser, go to pattern drum. Let's just select just anything. Command U for the cycle region. Okay, so let's say I'm really kind of fixated on this idea and I want to add, I don't know, a clap to it, right? Okay, so now I have the clap, but I don't have all the constituents. So I would go up here, I would copy the row and then come down here and then Control V. And then now I have a doubled snare and clap sound. Now, of course, I can play it out like this, but I can also offset this, right? So that's a little bit different. And that's where this would come into play. Or not offset, but rotate. That's pretty interesting. Copy a row to the next row. This can be particularly useful when you want to copy a row from one pattern to another. Okay, so this kind of language to me is probably the most important part of the user guide. The fact that we can get a specific user case scenario. Like up here, it says, hey, you can copy this to duplicate the rhythm of the copied row with a different drum sound, right? That makes it clear and real to me as somebody on the other side, somebody that's trying to make this program useful and trying to really kind of create my path with it and create a voice with it. This helps tremendously. So we need more of this. When you copy from a melodic note row, however, the note and octave values are maintained. So they're just giving you some bylaws here that keep happening. But again, with copying a row to a new row, this can be particularly useful when you want to copy a row from one pattern to another, right? So if you're like, yeah, I really like this hi-hat pattern, you would copy the row, and then it advises you here to paste to new row. Now, I don't have another row here, so why don't I just create one really quick? This time let's just do a shaker, I guess. And so, what was the key command for that? Edit, paste to new row. Let me just do it up here, just for fun. Paste steps, paste to new row. Here we go. Oh, that's even better. So do you see what they did there? I copied the row, and then they took. Let me delete this so this makes more sense. Hold on. Hold on. Delete row. Yeah. And so then, by means of this key command, they know what you're trying to do. And so they create the row and they paste it. Now, of course, at that point, it's not done. You would have to select the appropriate sound, but at least that gets you there a little bit faster. Nice. Yeah, I love the step sequencer. I think it's very magical, and then creative possibilities are endless. Regardless if you're feeling it or not, whatever that means, you could just, get yourself in a zone immediately. Let's see. Oh, okay, cool. What's this one? There's a duplicate row with the next assignment. This row, including row settings and active steps, is duplicating using the next row assignment. Okay, let's just try it. So we're going to go to edit. Duplicate row with next assignment. So it's taking whatever the next assignment is. In this case, Tom mid number 2. I don't know how all of this is dictated, but basically that's the next one over. And so it just created that for me. What was the key command for that? Yeah, duplicate row with next assignment. It didn't take the pattern. So obviously this is just like if you're trying to create a kit, this is probably a pretty fast way of doing it. No key command assigned by default, but you can always set that up. All right, so this is a good example. So I don't like how high this is, if you will. So I'm going to hit Control Option N rather, and I'm going to change this note. Now, we could just do an octave as well. It doesn't have to be note, right? Just because it makes it a little faster for me. Now this is converted into a melodic row. Now remember, prior to that, we were up pretty high, right? I'll hold Command. I'll create another note there, another tom. Good. And then if you wanted to rename these, I don't see a way to do that yet. I'm not sure if that's coming soon, but of course, again, if you're a part of the Logic community, you could just give that useful feedback to Apple. All right. Now we know how to do that. Changing the row assignment. I think this is useful. Let's see, choose different note value from the sub menu or choose melodic if you plan to assign different pitches. So the only reason you would want melodic is if you want an actual melody. If you're just trying to change from a snare to a hi-hat, then you're just going to use a note row. And that's when you would change the value from, so for example, let me Command Z some of this. Okay, so right now, as it stands, I have a tom. Let's say I didn't want the tom, I would select, using the up and down arrow menu, a new kit piece. But again, if I wanted a melody, then I would access this menu right here, and I would begin the process of converting this to a melodic row, right? Again, you don't have to do it this way. We can just automatically create a melodic row as well. Let me see if I could remember how to do that. No, I guess you can only downgrade to it. Is there a way to just create a melodic row? Let me think about this. So for a note row, choose notes, then choose a different note value. Okay. When a pattern using a drum machine designer patch is selected, the row assignment pop-up menu shows the kit pieces, right? Because it's already been pre-made for us. For patches using Ultra Beat Sampler, choose labeled notes to display notes with their descriptive label. For an automation row, choose automation. So yeah, you can select an automation row and then a note row by means of this. But if you want to change to a melodic row, you have to actually change the note or the octave. That's how that works. I thought we could just select a melodic row, but I'm not seeing like a fast way of doing that. But let's keep going. If we want to clear values, again, that's all inside of functions. So let's go back up here. Let's go to functions, clear row values. So let's say you decide, you know what, I don't want a certain attribute. Let me see if I could find something that has some attributes. Like right here, velocity seems to be one. So we go to functions and I say, can I clear the velocity value or chance, right? So let's clear velocity. Now that's again back to default. That is inside of functions and that's specific to the row. Or you could do everything. Hey, I want to turn all velocity values off, right? I just want it to be one fixed velocity around the clock. And so you can see everything is now set to a value of 100. All right, let's finish up here. Let me see how much we got left. Oh yeah, that's a good amount. I thought we were going to be able to crush this. But let's take our time. Let's do this proper. So let's see, you can edit a variety of settings for patterns, rows, and individual steps in the step sequencer. All right, so when you open the step sequencer, you see tabs along the top for pattern, row, and step inspectors. So if we open up the inspector, we see pattern, row, and step. So now we're moving into this arena. Clicking a tab displays settings for that level so we can control in a very kind of intuitive way what's happening on a pattern, on a row, or on a step level. Some controls in the step sequencer are also available in other parts of the step sequencer. For example, it says here some pattern settings are available in step sequencer menu bar, and many row settings are available in the row headers. By viewing and editing them in the inspector, you can more easily compare values and copy and paste values. So this is just another way of looking at the step sequencer. You don't need to use it, but again, the more information, the better. I believe that you can get yourself out of more trouble. I had a session this weekend, and wow, it started to kind of go off of the rails. And because I utilized the protect feature in Logic, I utilized SMPTY lock, I locked my marker and my arrangement markers. I was able to kind of, get hold of the ship, so to speak, and just tame everything and control it enough to get to the end of that particular session. So you want to make sure that, you have it down and you have a good workflow and you know kind of what to look for. And again, the Apple community can also help you get out of some binds. Okay, so pattern, row, and step. There's nothing really here that changes besides swing. This is the only thing that looks a little bit different. We can also access the pattern key and scale quantize in here. So that's cool. See, okay, so let's read this on key. When you choose a key from the pattern key pop-up menu, the steps are transposed to the new key. You can also choose no transpose from the menu. When no transpose is active, steps do not transpose when you choose a new key. So why is this important? I'm curious why they're, if they mention it, there's something here. So maybe what they're saying, if we set, I know these are drums, so this would probably be more relevant if this was a melody. Do I have a melody? Yeah, up here. Okay, let me delete these so I don't confuse myself here. So the key is on E major, yeah? So let's go to pattern, and it says E here. So I could theoretically, be in a different key, but I believe what they're saying, when you set this to no transpose, as I'm trying to do right now, it's not visible, but that's kind of the idea, no transpose. So I believe, and I'm going to double check this in the region inspector as well, but if you change the key up here, that nothing happens in this menu. So we know that if you change the key in an Apple Logic session, that if you're using loops and such, it's going to be affected, right? And so if I change this to like D minor, nothing's happening. So let me hit Command Z a couple times and let's see, what does it sound like as it stands? Okay, good. And then if I change this to like say C flat. That's all the same because it has nothing to do with the MIDI. Yeah. Now, if I change that setting here, let's see what this sounds like. It's changing it, right? Because I'm changing the region value. But what if I tell Logic, hey, no, oh no, it's changing it regardless. It doesn't matter. Let me see if I change it here. Nope. Yeah, so I don't see anything changing within the pattern per se. But maybe that's because I have it set to no transpose. If I change it from here, let's see if it actually goes up. Yeah. Okay. So I think this is a good way to kind of, you know, keep us safe in case we move something or change something. You can just say, hey, I know I don't want to change this. So think of it as a lock feature. You can change the scale as well. I don't think this will be... Oh, cool. It actually changes the notes. Oh, and they're reflected here inside of the note value. Pretty cool. I like that a lot. Sweet. All right. Page 695. Change the playback mode of the row. Okay. Change the loop start. So if we go to row here, I could tell Logic, hey, I want this to play backwards. Forwards, you know, forward and back. In fact, let me duplicate that. Okay. All right. So then we'll go, let's do them all forward and back. It's kind of fast. It's kind of hard to see. Maybe I should slow down the step rate. Let's do 16th notes. So that one was just moving forward. I mean, I probably can't see how fast it's going either way. Let's see, 8. I still see it just moving forward. Okay. Oh, that's because I was on the wrong row. So let's go forward and back here. Yeah. Now you can see that moving back and forth the way you would expect. So again, you can change that per row. That's the step rate per the row. We can change the step rate per the entire pattern as well. And then there's information that we can change as far as the step, right? So let's say I want this automation value to be increased. We can increase it this way. Now, what's interesting is this is obviously based on the individual step. So I would have to hold Option and click on a different step, I believe, to, you know, show the indicated values here inside of the pattern inspector. Is there anything else here that could help you guys out? Change the MIDI channel, change the loop start, end start. That pertains to the row. So let's say I want this to end, I don't know, over here now. I want to change the value. I think this is a lot easier, in all fairness, to control. I really do. So just throwing that out there for anybody that's interested. Looks like you can change your automation mode from here. Not even sure what this means, so we should read about that. Latch. Once set, the automation parameter remains constant until a step with a different value. Okay, so that's cool. So in other words, if I set something like a pan to one side, unless a different value triggers it to change, it will maintain its position. Slide interpolates between the last set automation and the next to produce a smooth gradual change. Okay, this is important. This is very important. In fact, I'll probably just do these two and then we'll finish off. Let me just see what else. 696, 697. Oh, but then we go into global tracks. Now I'm going to try and just crush it right now. Let's see if we can just get it done. So slide is going to basically be a smoother transition. Let's see if I could turn all this on. So let's see, I got to increase the loop length. Okay. And then let's go there, turn all of these on. Well, why isn't that turning on? Oh, because the loop start. No, that seems right. I should do that. Control. There we go. Turn all of these on. Sweet. All right. So with latch, this is going to sound a little bit smoother. So right now I'm doing this tremolo thing, right? And really I should set this. Okay, cool. This should be a little better. All right, so let's listen to this with latch. Okay, and let's listen to this with slide. So look at the channel strip on the left-hand side. With slide, it's a very gradual transition. And by the way, you're hearing all that low end. Don't be afraid to do a low cut. I like a little noise, but not that much. Okay, so when we change that over to latch, it's the, you know, an accurate readout. Man, you gotta love technology. It's such a beautiful thing. All right, cool. Let's go into step settings. So we're here, and you know, you could turn things on and off. Change the note from here. Change the gate value. So this is kind of nice, right? For those of you that are a little bit more technical. Looks like we could change note repeat, all the various attributes. Now I'm inside of an automation row, so I don't have as many options. But when I'm inside of a note, I could change the gate. You can see that reflected inside of the step sequencer. The probability in chance, start offset, step rate. I can skip, or I can create a tie as well. All right, 696. Yeah, this is all stuff you already know. Let's talk about customizing this. All right. How do we zoom in? How do we show or hide values? Color. You can also save the current pattern configuration as a default template for the channel strip and revert to the original default template for the channel strip. Okay. So in terms of, navigation, you should look at the top right. That's going to be money in terms of being able to navigate this workflow. Here's the sliders. Yeah. And then we know that this is also very helpful when you have a longer pattern, right? Now I can instantly access both of these at the same time by going back and forth. So everything on the top right is going to help you. If we want to show or hide values, if we go to view, apparently there's ways to change how you want to view this, and I should give you a better view yourself. So let's go view, and let's see here. Show no display edit mode. Only when editing values, always for the selected row. So let's go with only when editing values. Oh, that's cool. So unless you're working on it, hold on. Am I right about this? Yeah, I mean, unless I'm not understanding this idea, it's only showing me information as I work on it. So here, let me just edit some values, I guess. So what if I'm not working on this? Then what? What's the difference? Always for selected rows. I would oh, I understand. They're talking about literally the actual value, like 189. So unless you have that on to always, it's basically going to only show you the value when you edit it. I prefer to always have it on, but that's just me. What's always for all rows? Okay, so that's interesting. Did not know you could do that. So I kind of like always for selected row, because when I select it, I can see everything in real time. I'm going to leave that on. All right, 696. Yep, good. Coloring, we can change the row color. We've talked about coloring extensively here, so no need to go into that. We can reorder just as we could in the tracks here. Let's see, I want this one at the very top. Good. I'm sure we're not changing the actual MIDI event. We're just literally changing the order. Turn on MIDI out. I've showed you this before. Let's say as you're making changes, you don't want to hear the playback. You would click on MIDI out. It's still going to play back in your track. It's just for editing purposes. I just want to be clear. On the note or drum sound step when you edit, yeah, this is good. And then save a pattern as a default template. Why would you want to do this is my question. You can save the current row assignments and view states as a default for the another track using the same channel strip. This is also determines the default view of the editor when the track is selected. I suppose this is like an audio default or MIDI default. You can have just it set up the way you want it to. Functions store as default template. Let me just check this out. Okay. I am not going to do that, but anyway, you can also revert to the original Good. And let's see, 698. Okay, that's good for today. All right, my good friends, the next time I see you, we're going to be talking about global settings. If you've ever been confused about how to change time signatures, getting into project tempos, transposition, we will cover that and more. I wanted to thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you and to learn. And again, thank you for the 2K subs. The channel really, really appreciates it. We're working hard to bring you the very best content on YouTube today regarding Logic Pro. So thank you guys very much. Much love, much respect. We're out of here.